Hey, Joe. Linda says I'm too far away from the screen, so I got to get a little bit closer. How are we doing on time? Is it time? Yeah, we're closing in on 2 o'clock. I think we're about ready. All right, thank you everybody for being here today. We have some interesting stuff to talk about today. Linda says you can make anything that's boring very interesting. So let's see how we do. Anyway, so we are at the Greater San Diego Association of Realtors. Oops, the light's not on. Hang on a second here. Let me fix that. Stop. Better if I don't look like I'm doing it from a tomb. Anyway, we're at the Greater San Diego Association of Realtors, and my name is Kevin Burke, and there's my telephone number, and there's my email address, and I want to help. So please give me an opportunity. If there's anything I can do for you, please let me know. I have some credentials. This one's got legal aspects highlighted, but our subject matter really today is, it's courthouse retrieval system. So I guess that's legal, sort of. Been in real estate 40 years. I've been in real estate when blue books were how we looked up property, and most people, there aren't a lot of people out there that remember that, but we had blue books. We didn't have the internet or any of that kind of stuff, and so it's just amazing to me the changes that we've done over the years to get to where we are today. And if anybody should be resistant to change, it should probably be me, but I really believe change is job security. Okay. And I hope you agree. The more they change things, the more educated I become, and the more adaptive that I become. And so hopefully you have that same experience, but you definitely need to be a catalyst for it. So we're going to be talking about things today that might appear to be legal. I am not a practicing attorney. I just picked up another case today. My trial work is limited to testifying as an expert witness. And speaking of that, by the way, I'm half thinking about having a half hour with Kevin kind of thing where people can just log in and just ask any kind of question they want to ask, and set up a time every week to the same time, kind of like a TV show or a podcast or something, and just create an open forum where people can ask almost any question, and I'm more than happy to answer it. I've gotten to a point where I'm not afraid of questions, and if I don't know the answer to something, I'll tell you, well, that's a really good question. As I always say, you always want to compliment the person asking the question. It's a really good question. Let me find out, and I'll get right back to you. So, and that's what I usually do. I'm able to find out, but normally I have it pretty well close to the hip. So maybe we will do that. I'll think about that. Maybe like on a Friday evening or sometime. But in the meantime, standard of care is my specialty, and that is those. Did the agent, code of ethics issues, things like that? Did the agent do what they were supposed to do? Would it be within that standard of care? And that's a national topic, by the way. Agents' duties of inspection and disclosure. Your obligation to conduct a reasonably competent, diligent visual inspection of the accessible areas of the property. Would it sound like I'm reading a script? Yeah, well, any real estate attorney you speak with in California has that, just kind of rolls off the tongue. So, and finally, market conditions in San Diego County. So conversation today not intended as a substitute for the advice of your broker, unless of course you are the broker and you should be talking to yourself, and hopefully you have good conversations. So nor for that of your attorney. Please consult with them as appropriate. Okay, so our webinars are intended to be interactive. We had a great webinar this morning. We had a lot of interaction, a lot of really good questions. It really helped to set the tone, and we got done in time. And so here we are again. So please utilize the Q&A button to ask questions, offer input. I do look forward to hearing from you. I really do. It always fascinates me. I'm a practitioner like you. What are you seeing out there? What are you seeing in the streets? And I suspect I'm probably seeing the same thing. I cannot believe the conversations I have with people about what their industry looks like right now. So it's fascinating to me. So and I have some experiences as well. So this morning we did creating the ultimate listing agreement. That was a blast. We tore through that RLA, and I thought we did a really good job on it. And as I told an attorney later today who called me, and I said, I think we really just we did a great job with that. I think everybody understands it. They feel better about it. They feel like when they go on that appointment, they're more likely to get it signed. There's not going to be a whole lot of issues, stuff like that. So it's different than how to create the winning listing presentation. Presentation's different than knowing what the agreement says. So this afternoon, we're going to be talking about your MLS, and it's going to be the launch of the MLS week. You'll see it in a second. So CRS tax and finding pre-foreclosure properties. And I'm going to give you, it's amazing how many times I've done this class. And it's amazing to me how many nobody listens. So I don't know, right? But I keep putting it out there. I keep telling people this is easy money, but whatever. Okay, all I can do, right? What do they say? You can lead a horse to water. So Tuesday we will do the continuation of MLS week, and that's where we'll talk about fast stats. And I think fast stats, those are the coolest things ever. I mean, I'm just going to start printing them, carrying them around with me. Pull over to the side of the road, talk to people, hand them one. They're free. SDR, member benefit. And they're easy to do. I'll show you how to brand them, how to make them yours. And that, by the way, is not something they're telling everybody how to do anymore. So that's stuff that I've kept teaching for a very long time because I want you to get benefit out of it. And so looks like I messed that up. It should say 10 to 12. And so look at that. I did that backwards. Okay. So anyway, in the afternoon, we'll be doing the collaboration center, which is, forget emailing listings to clients. That is old school. Now you're going to create a website for them for every client that you have. You have fairly unlimited resources for that. And oh, by the way, they can create their own search model from within the MLS from the website that you create. So that's a cool program. I really like that. So today we're going to talk about member benefits. And as I said earlier, welcome to your MLS week, because that's where we are. We're going to be doing MLS today, the rest of today anyway, and we'll do it again on Tuesday. And I'm pretty sure we're doing it again on Thursday of next week. So, but if you think of anything you want to see us do, would you let us know? Let me know, let SDAR know, education@sdar.com, or you can always send me an email. I'm realizing that I haven't done the RPA or the buyer representation agreement, things like that. We really need to be doing that. They've changed significantly. And I have been approved by the Department of Real Estate for 5 hours of continuing education on the RPA. So I was honored. The head of the department called me up and said, I'm so excited. I can't wait to read your take on the RPA. And so so that was live. I've already got I'm already a school. So hopefully we'll be seeing you in the first part of or middle of September, where we're going to start doing those. And then October, November, pretty busy on that. So thank you for joining us for our discussion of MLS CRS tax and finding pre-foreclosure properties. And I'm going to show you the many different resources available for you to use that system and why it's so important. So CRS tax, courthouse retrieval system, that's what it stands for. It's different than the old program that we used to have called Realist. And not to say anything disparaging, but that program was data entry. So the previous tax reporting system was had a lot of errors in it, and I really am tickled with the new system, and I'm going to show you kind of how it interweaves with other things that you're going to be doing. So it is your county tax record, and that's the source where that all comes from. It is important for a number of reasons, tax autofill being one of the biggest ones. And so let's go ahead and let's take a look. I wanted to launch into it, and enough time dallying about all this. Let's go ahead in here and see if I can actually find out where I am. Here we go. So I've already logged in to Paragon. And so hopefully you can see it's my clock is already ticking. I've got an hour 40 left, although it'll reset itself obviously once we get started. Let me see who all is. Karen, welcome back. Miriam, always good to see you. Stephanie, hello again. Stephanie, email to you is bouncing, just so you know. Okay, so here we are. We are in the MLS, and so I've already logged in, obviously, from my one page, and one page is where SDAR has put all of the free stuff. All the stuff they bought for you is all included on the one page. So great resource for you. And one of those, again, of course, I clicked on Paragon, which has taken me to the Paragon window. That's where we are right now. Up here at the top of the page, I have tax. So I want to look at that briefly, and then I'm going to show you when I input a listing how that tax autofill becomes incredibly important. So I'm going to click on that. It says right here, CRS data tax search. It's going to pop up a separate window. It's going to give me I'm gonna have to move some of this out of the way here. It's going to give me my, in my case, my logo is already there. My name is already there, all that kind of stuff. And I want to show you how to do that. So you're in the tax suite, again, powered by CRS data. So over here on the right-hand side where we see settings, I'm going to go over here. I'm going to click on settings, and that's going to take me to the internal part of the program. Now, I'm going to tell you, you don't have to spend a whole lot of time in there because we're going to set a couple of things real quick that are going to make it easier for everybody. But really, at this point right now, I have in front of me on this screen, I have my image. Obviously, it's under branding, okay, and so I have my image. And if you if you're following along and you're doing this yourself in your version of the MLS, again, obviously this is a Paragon. This is a good time for you to go ahead and put your logo in there. Add my branding to reports, right? Check the box because you want it to show up on the reports that you create. And then on the right-hand side, I have my name. I have my company affiliation. Remember, DRE requires it, and AR Code of Ethics requires it. I have my telephone number, and then I have my email address, and then finally I have my DRE broker number in there. And as I can see from my screen, quite a few of us on this call today are brokers as well. And if you're not a broker, I think you should become one, and I will help you do that. Hi, Murr, welcome back. And so there's your broker number. That's my broker number. And again, if you've made any changes on yours, make sure you click on save. And then I'm going to go back up. And so that's going to be most of it. But see here where it says email address. I'm going to click on email address, and then there's where that's going to appear. All of the rest of these things, I don't think you need to touch. And frankly, I think if you do, you might mess stuff up. But I've done what I need to do as far as the Department of Real Estate is concerned. Okay, I have my affiliation with my company, and I have my DRE number. And so that satisfies DRE compliance, but it also satisfies my NAR Code of Ethics compliance. Remember, Code of Ethics is going to be the higher standard than the DRE, but I assure you the DRE looks to make sure that you are complying with your Code of Ethics as well. So that being said, that's really all I need to do here. I could go into my default county search. I think you can do that. San Diego, search settings. I like to keep it simple. And then we have all of these other things, and I'm just realizing my telephone ringer is on. So hopefully nobody heard that little noise. Okay, so and that's really all I need to do as far as settings are concerned. So again, if I click on settings, it takes me to this page, but this is how I got my logo up here on the left. And so when I print my reports, that's where it's going to show up. So I'm going to click on back to previous. And apparently I've done that already, so it's not being cooperative. Okay, I'm going to go back over here to property search. Everybody with me so far? All right. Okay, so property search now, we have two buttons up at the top. We have property search and we have power prospecting, and we're going to utilize all of this today. So again, stop me if you have a question, because I want to help you. This stuff doesn't necessarily, it's not really that intuitive. But from here, I've got under my property search, I've got my search for property, obviously, but then I've also got my foreclosure search, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. So for right now, I'm under property. San Diego County is my saved county, but obviously you can go to other counties. You can look in other areas. If you want to go in here, look at all the different counties you can look at. You can look at Los Angeles County, you've got all the Marin County, pretty much most of the state of California, you can actually do a tax search. That's helpful for us, by the way, because, we have a tax attorney, I'm sorry, not a bankruptcy attorney in our office who is a broker with Linda. And we tend to do quite a few short sales. And so that'll be some of the topic matter for today. But anyway, for that, we've got our property, we've got our zip, I'm sorry, we've got our county that we're in. We can also save search if we've got other things that we have done. And then the easy part. So now from here, I can do a lot of different things. I can enter in the owner's name. I can enter in the address, subdivision APM. I find most people are really good about the address, but you may find some surprises. Like you may have a listing with a seller and then type in the seller's name and find out they've got 25 other properties, perhaps listed with other people. I've done that, where I've had several listings by the same seller and then found that they actually owned other properties as well. So once I do that, and once I click on submit, then it's going to create obviously my finding. And so you can see I've done quite a bit recently. I've got a saved property report on 811 America Way, which is a property that I sold to a real estate agent many years ago. And I use that repeatedly in my examples. And now I think he's got it listed as a rental for rent. But you can see my recent property searches. This is a listing we just took down in San Diego. This is a listing that belongs to a property that belongs to my son-in-law up in Los Angeles. And we have Barham, we have transactions that we've been doing. So whenever I do go up in here and I start to type in that address, and again, as I start to type it, it starts to fill it out. And so I'm going to do a space, and now notice that it's saying, okay, well, what else you got for me? And so then I'm going to put in, and as I start to type, I see America Way, 811 America Way. Now, again, I'm cheating because we already have it down here, but it's going to go ahead and pull it up. So this is a much more current photo than the one that I had in the MLS when I sold it 10 years ago. So obviously you need a current photo. So, but an end unit, ocean views, it was pretty nice. And I bought it from the client that I sold it to. But when I did pull that up, notice what it did across the top. It gave me the property report, which is what I'm looking at here, but also my ability to look at comps, prospecting, and facts and figures. And we're going to look at that in just a minute, okay? So in the meantime, I can do a lot. I can email it. I can save it as a PDF. I can print it. I can look at several reports. I can save the report, which was the example that I used earlier. Now, by the way, notice view MLS info. So if I pull up view MLS info, what's it going to do? Well, it's going to look up the property to show me what the listing looks like today. And so there it is. It's townhome. He's asking $5,100 a month on a rental. I think that's great. I hope he gets it. It's never did meet the gentleman who bought the place, but because most everything we do anymore nowadays is online. So furnished, remodeled, whatever. So anyway, I just wanted to show you that it looks at, and notice at the bottom left, it has my picture. It has, provided by me and my license information. It also has a reference to my other logo. Well, actually, both of my logos, interestingly enough. And the date and the time that this was pulled, okay, 2:15 in the afternoon. Okay, all right, so that just gives me an idea what the MLS looks like. So, but this is my tax record, and there's a couple of things I can tell. Now, first of all, notice I have a number of pictures in here. So Jeff's done a heck of a job. I mean, this is pretty nice looking compared to what I sold him, right? So he's really done it up nicely. So I give him credit for that. And then this part here that's not showing anything is essentially the map of where the property is located. I don't know why it's not producing any result, but there can be a million reasons for that. I am running 5G here. You would think I'd have pretty good load. Anyway, I can upload a custom image. I can create my own. I can also view a larger map, which just means they'll blow the map up. And then I get, essentially I get nothing. So I need to take that back, tone it down a little bit again, go back into my property. And here's the recent one that we looked at. Let me pull that back up. Here it is. And as I scroll down, let me show you a couple of things that are really important to you in the CRS tax system. So first of all, I have the address of the property, the postal address of the property, along with the zip +4. So that's something I do in all of my letters, everything I send. Some people say, why do you do that? It doesn't do anything. Other people say it gets there faster. So I just do it because I like to be complete and I like to be thorough. So it also tells me the subdivision. So how many times have you input a listing and you didn't know what subdivision it was in? And so here it's going to give you the information. All right. And so I'm going to show you inputting a listing in a minute where using the tax autofill is the best thing you ever did. Okay. But notice there's a couple of things in here, like the name, it's called Spindrift Del Mar. That's the name of it. Now it had two different phases to it, essentially, in that community. At the lower level, these were the least expensive townhomes. But when you went up into the higher level, an area up there they called the Bluffs, again, over the racetrack. This is over Flower Hill Mall. And the Bluffs were much larger, much more expensive, that kind of thing. This right here tells me that it is for sale. Well, it's a rental. It's $5,100, and it was listed on April the 24th. So it's quite possible that it was a racing rental. It may the racing season I think begins tomorrow. So but it still shows as active. So again, hopefully I'll get to see you on opening day. Okay. So anyway, my carrier route, my county, Thomas Brothers coordinates. A lot of people don't even know what those are anymore. Again, more than half of our real estate licensees have had a license less than 5 years. So if you have, you don't know what a Thomas guide is. So it just is. But it's the way we used to find things. Okay. Our mapping system. Okay. Over on the right-hand side, I've got my property summary. Obviously residential. It's a condominium, it's a townhome, but the legal description is a condominium. And then here's some very important information, and that is my square foot, right? And so again, I don't ever want to change that. When I input a listing into the MLS, I'm going to accept the tax records information. That this is right out of the county, okay? And so I'm going to accept that information. And as I always say, if you're going to change anything, you need to be prepared to defend it. And I say that only from the legal perspective, in that I've seen more than one person change the square footage. They go, oh, there's no way that's 1,326 square feet. I think it looks more like 1,900 square feet. And then of course they're 200 square feet over or whatever. But I always say accept what's there unless you're prepared to defend some kind of a change, some other kind of a change. It's one unit in a building that has six. I believe it's 6 units in it. Now notice I also have some buttons I can click under here. So over here, I can click on the Sanjus parcel report, and that will pull up. Yep, you can still see that. It'll talk about tickets and things like that. Grab a little drink. Again, I'm running 5G. I don't know why it's so slow today, but there we go. There's my parcel report. So when we take a listing, and you'll notice up here in the address bar, it says SANDAG, so it's San Diego Association of Governments, right? But this is something that we're going to print. This is something we're going to save. There's the parcel number. This is something we are going to save in our listing file in zip form, so that we have that information. So again, there's the address, for zip +4. Here's the legal description of the property. It's not the entire legal description. The assessed value, the assessor's totals, all of that information. There's my square footage again, 1,326. So this is really helpful information to have. It has 2.5 bathrooms, 2 bathrooms top floor, and then a half a bath in the middle floor. A fairly common thing that we see in that area. I remember when I sold one around the corner, 925 Intrepid, I think it was, and I remember meeting a guy who his daughter was buying the place. I was the seller's agent, and I remember him walking up the stairs and making the comment that, and his daughter's last name was Fletcher. And so him making a comment as he was going up the stairs saying, I wish I'd kept one of these for myself. And at the time, I didn't realize who he was, but he was Kim Fletcher. And Kim Fletcher had loaned the money out of Home Federal Savings and Loan, had loaned the money to the developer. The developer went bankrupt, and he took over the complex and completed it back in the 90s when this was built. And I'll never forget to this day him making that comment. And they're nice units. I like them. But of course, God rest his soul, he's passed at this point now. But anyway, interesting guy. So district information, if you want to know who your congressmen are, who your senators are, your assembly representatives, your school districts, all that kind of stuff, all this is included right here. Okay, so enough about that. But anyway, I wanted to let you know that those were there. And I'm going to go ahead and close that window, and that's going to take us back to the original window. Over here on the right, I've got my view property report card. Now I'm going to tell you something. A lot of people never go to these things, and so I think they've got valuable information that sometimes we mistake, by being in too much of a hurry. I think when you're selling a property, I think you're getting, hopefully you're getting paid a lot of money. I understand maybe not what you think you're worth, but okay, now unfortunately that's going to pull up the same information, so that really wasn't helpful at all. Sorry about that. There's a whole different thing that's supposed to pop up, but anyway, we're getting paid a lot of money, and I think we need to be thorough on some things. So general parcel information, and I can make that go away, make it bigger. There's my APN number. APN number, as we all know, is the thumbprint of the property. Okay, no two properties have the same APN number. Most of the rest of this isn't going to probably be important to us. There's the current owner's name. There's the mailing address. He's an owner occupant, owner occupied, yes. School information and location, and then the sales history as you went through time. So as you can see, he paid $575 for that from me back in 2016. Really? No, it's further than that. That'd be only 7 years ago. No, it's got to be well over 10 years. Oh yeah, no, it had to be. So here we had, I think he did a refinance at that point, grant deed, but we sold it to him in 07. So goes back quite a ways. Got a lot of history with that. What else? Anything else in there that's important? If I want to pull up one of the deeds, I can click on the link. And again, I don't have enough credits to download it, but I can always click on purchase credits, in which case I can each credit's $2.50. So for $5 essentially, I can pull up the deed and all the information for that. And frankly, in our office, that's what we do. We pull up the grant deed so that we can find out what the who the true owner is, because we want the listing agreement to mirror exactly the way that title is held. And the reason behind that is that if you don't have that, if you've got a mistake in it, so I see a lot of times where a property is owned in trust, and then the listing agreement will not have it in trust. The listing agreement will literally have it in the owner's the signatory for the trust, and so you don't have a listing. And then you go put it in the MLS, and then we find out later on that the seller decides they don't want to sell it, and then they look at their listing agreement, they realize you listed it, you had me sign it personally, you didn't have me sign it as trustee. And so, guess what? You may not have a listing, which means the offer comes in, you're going to probably end up being obligated to pay a commission, because when you put it in the multiple listing service, you've told everybody that you have all of the necessary signatures, when in fact you did it wrong. And the seller says, you can't bind me to that because you didn't have my name the way it is on title. Okay. But got a homeowner's exemption. As most of you know, it really all that does is protect you for the top $7,000 from creditors. But it shows your assessments and the changes and things like that. Remember, see, these all say 2.0. Remember that the county is with Prop 13, they are limited to increasing your tax by 2% of the base. Then I get into my taxes and I see how much those are. So fortunately in California, we have the property tax. It's the real property tax. In other states where I own property, we have not only the property tax, but also have the personal property tax, where they tax your car, things like that. So it's, it's all about revenue. I get it. But at least in California, we've kind of kept that from getting out of control any more so than it really is. I can click on this button that says view tax details, and that's going to pull up, whoops, and everything went away. There we go. And so that's going to pull up the tax details. I'm going to open this up just a little bit, and you can see over here on the right hand side, so these are the tax. So when you pull up the tax roll from the property profile or something like that, these are the taxes that a lot of people aren't even aware are there. And so, that's why in the MLS, when the question says, are there any assessments? The answer is going to always be yes, right? And yet I always see it marked no, because agents don't want anybody to think that there's an assessment against the property, but look at them all. Okay, so you've got the coastal rail trail, you've got the emergency ambulance service, you've got the radio equipment, you've got the water water availability, your fire benefit. Look at all that $50 fire benefit. What do they put that in there? Mosquito surveillance, right? So they have mosquitoes floating around with binoculars and stuff. There's my water standby charge. And when you look over here, sewer service charge, $614. So this is going to show you what the assessments are against the property, and that's a pretty high one. But as we know in California, the legislative body has learned that that they can treat water as a tax. So there it is, vector disease control, so rodents, things like that. And then my total actually in a Solana Beach lighting zone, right? And so it's going to add up to $746. And so you might want to print this, save it as a PDF. We save everything as a PDF and save that in your file as well. And maybe put that into your listing in the MLS so that everybody can see what those things are. Okay. All right. So because certainly plaintiffs counsel, and like I said, I got handed a lawsuit already today, and plaintiffs counsel is looking for stuff like this. And so, it might be a good idea to put that in there. Here's my mortgage history. You can see it goes back, again to 27, and so he's got several forms of financing on there. I can also look at the trust details. When I click on that mortgage, I see this information, a loan amount of 108 grand. That's not a bad deal. That's when I click on view mortgage trust details. Foreclosure history, there isn't any. Clearly, I wasn't having any issues, and he's not having any either. Property characteristics for the building, once again, the year built. So the effective year build is important, right? So by looking at 1985, I know I've dodged the earthquake reporting, right? Seismic reporting, earthquake. I know that I've dodged the lead paint disclosure, but I haven't dodged things like my fire hardening and defensible space and things like that. 1985 was before 1990, which is the cutoff point for when you had to have all that stuff. And then we would look to see if it was in one of the zones, a high fire severity zone, to qualify for the inspection. So bedrooms is 2. There's my square footage again. I wouldn't change that. And then what else? Anything else in your construction quality doesn't really matter to me much. I'm probably not going to trust that data anyway. Got a 2-car garage. Property characteristics. It's a condominium. Whoops, where did I go? Okay, so it's a condominium unit, residential, lot square footage, obviously for the entire community. And so that's not going to do me any good. Anything else in here that's important? School district, San Diego. It's an R1, Spindrift again. So I've got all this information. Oh, and then the other big piece of information is my FEMA flood zone. So this is an area of minimal flood hazard, usually depicted on firms as above the 500-year flood level. So not very likely. Remember, it doesn't matter the physical characteristics of the property, because this one's kind of high ground above Flower Hill Mall. It matters whether it's in a map zoned by the state. So the state doesn't run around like Google figuring out whether or not it's possible the property is going to flood. They're just going to go ahead and they're going to say this area here has potential for flooding. For example, if they release the water from the dam upstream, it could flood. Things like that. It's highly unlikely, but okay, I get it. So I certainly don't want to say it's never going to flood. I say it's in the zone, but it's in the 500-year floodplain. Okay, all right. Anything else in there? Again, I've got my firm panel ID. I can click on that, and that'll give me. Again, you can enter in an address, and so some of this stuff is really cool. And again, most of it, we'll never have known it was there. Look at this. So remember what I said about that flooding? There it is. That's coming from the dam, right? Lake Hodges. Anyway, interesting. Lots of really good stuff in there. So it's stuff that we never even thought to look for. Okay, and this is the FEMA flood map, by the way. Good. All right. Most everything. Learn more about flood insurance from floodsmart.gov. And again, I can do a lot of things from the bottom of the report that I could do from the top of the report. But let's say I want to market to this. Well, let's look at comparables just really quick, because I want to show you how to market to the area. So I've got my CMA and my client report. I'm going to click on that. That's going to pop up a list of properties that they think are comparable to this subject property. And it's going to spin a little bit for me, I guess. It's in column 4 now, so 2 of 2 comparable properties. So they think there's one over there in Triple Crown, 532.5. Via de la Valle is going to be in Triple Crown, and then Valley Avenue is right around the corner from that as well. Jody, you're real familiar with those. What else? Anything else in there? It's exciting square footage. How am I going to get that to rotate over there? It's not loading the entire thing. All right, so we're not going to spend a lot of time on it if we can't get it to cooperate with us. But again, over here, I create my report. Okay. All right. Prospecting. Let's talk about that. I might be having trouble with my internet. Let's see here, 5G. I'm doing okay. So what's missing here now again is the map. We're having some issues with mapping features. But again, we're in the power prospecting up here, part of our search. I'm going to scroll down. And so this is what I'm looking for right now, because I'm going to be maybe printing labels, things like that. This is not giving me what I want. So let me try refreshing that. And still not giving me what I want. So I think what I'm going to do is switch internet bands. Where is it? Let's see if I don't lose everything. It works. You all can't see what I'm doing. That's probably good. Okay, so what I just did was switch internet bases here. Let's see, that doesn't do anything either. Okay, well, we're not gonna worry about it. So anyway, my prospect criteria, the street name is America Way. If I don't want America Way, if I want to look at everything in there, there's Intrepid, there's a bunch of other streets in there, then I would take that street name out. Obviously, the zip code is 92014. Here's my subdivision, so I will stay within the community. But again, I'm not so sure if I like the America Way part of it. And then I'm gonna look at my last sale. So you might ask yourself, you want to start targeting people that are potential sellers, and maybe you think, well, nobody that bought the property last month other than a flipper is going to be selling the property. They're going to own it for at least 3 years. So I can go back in here and I can look, my to date can be from 3 years ago. So I'm going to go back to 2020 and pick a date, July 1. And then I only want to look at sales up until July the 20th. Okay, July of 20. Bedrooms and bathrooms, really they have 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom. Those are the only 2 options in there. And the rest of this I really don't care about. See, bathrooms, won't do. I mean, in fact, I don't even need bedrooms, right? It's not important. So and then I hit my submit button, and so what is it going to tell me? So in Spindrift, on America Way, there are 27 properties, and this is going to give me, and I'm going to show you, we're going to look at this, the legend here really quick. But what I'm going to be able to do is I'm going to create my own labels. So I have 37 properties or 27 properties that meet the criteria. And by the way, up here it says exports remaining 5,000. Ignore that. When you come back into the program again this evening, it'll be back at 5,000 again. So it really doesn't cost you anything. So notice my icons. So here's a green icon. When I hover over it, it says that's the one. 811 America Way is for sale at $5,100 a month for a rental. And then this one down here is one that sold recently, sold in 2019 for $740,000. Now, again, you're looking at the tax record. And the reason this is so important is because when you're in your MLS part of things, you're only seeing what real estate agents have worked on, only what real estate agents have had in the MLS. But when I'm looking at the tax data, I'm looking at all the sales. That can be good, it can be bad, right? Because I can have some interspousal grant needs, I can have things like that. So it gets a little bit mixed up. All right. So, but anyway, when I hover over it, I see that the listing was from it's a 1900 listing. Can you see that? No, you can't see that. So let's pull up my screen so you can see it. Here's the screen that popped up. And now I apologize. I think maybe there was a different one before, but 825, it might be a door or 2 away. So there's 811 right there. But look at all the pictures on this one. So it's got a lot of really cool stuff to it. But again, this one is sold for $740,000. Now, clearly, Jeff is going to do well when he sells this property. He's going to sell for much more than he paid for it. But as you can see, this is what the listing looked like. And again, this does not give you the full agent handout. It gives you essentially the client printout. Okay, everybody good? Of course, I messed that up. Sorry. Let me pull back up my screen again, and here we are. Okay. All right, so I apologize for that. Do that every once in a while. I do something stupid like that. So again, those are my icons. So the green one is for sale. The blue one is sold. The red one now is expired. So I have two expired listings. Here's 845, and it expired back in 2019 at an 870 price. So it's just a little bit ahead of its time. Here's another one expired back in is out of the area listing. It just expired on September the 30th of 22 after being on the market for what, 2.5 months. And so that one went away. And then I have two more down here that are sold. And again, I'm watching the property values going up. So, okay, so now I have all of these. Now, what can I do with them? Notice how the boxes are checked on the left-hand side. Well, I can uncheck things. I can check things. Like maybe I go through here and I say, well, I really don't want to send any marketing materials to anybody that has a real estate license. So, well, Jeff for sure doesn't have, he has a real estate license. So we're going to take that out. Anybody else in there that you recognize that has a real estate license? This is how I do my list anyway. I don't know that I want to market to realtors, real estate agents. Sometimes I do, because sometimes, maybe they're not in the business really. They have a license, but they're really not using it. They're doing something else. So I'm going to think maybe that's the case with Jeff. So I'm going to put him back in there again. I've only got 27 to send out. And the reason I'm showing you this is because I want to bullet point this for you. I don't want to be sending, if I'm going to send out mailing pieces, I don't know about you, postage is not inexpensive. Okay. And so when you send things out to people, I want to make sure I'm not wasting time and wasting money. So like, I don't see anybody in there that I don't want to waste time with, maybe a past client or something like that. But I do want to send these mailing pieces. So I'm going to go down here to the bottom where it says proceed to labels and exports. And again, I could remove checked, I could remove keep checked, I can edit the columns, but I'm going to proceed to labels and exports. And this is kind of the fun part of this. So you can see that screen up there. And again, I see that my label, now there's two different things. There's label options and there's merging a file. All right. And so, and I can create my labels obviously and all that kind of stuff. So from up in here, I can skip records with no zip code. What I'm looking to do, see right here, remove exact duplicates, because there are properties that are going to show up more than one time. So maybe my 27 number, now I've already looked at it and I know it's not going to happen, but my 27 number is probably going to be pretty good. Do I skip records with no zip plus fours? I don't think so. I think I like to keep those in there. And then my address, for purposes of the label is first name first, and then last name, last. And then what address is used. So if I'm mailing to owners, and I don't want to send them to non-owner occupants, then I check owner's address. I'm probably going to create two separate lists, right? So the owner's address may be off-site. This is one of the ways that they give you the owner occupancy rate level in a community is based on whether or not the HOA dues are sent off-site. So I'm probably going to want it to go to the owner's address, which means I may also be targeting absentee owners. Those are kind of my favorite, especially right now. There are a lot of people that have left California, at least in the middle class, have left California, turned properties into rentals, and maybe they're tired of renting them at this point, and they may be a good candidate for selling the property. And again, remember what we did, we're only looking at stuff up until July 1st of 2020, okay? So, these are the more likely, the 27 that are more likely to sell because they've owned it for at least 3 years, okay? All right, and so that's the first part of what I'm doing. And then I have my create, export, merge files. And again, I'm probably going to keep the default settings. I don't use top producers, so these over here on the right side don't mean anything to me. But I'm going to keep the additional fields. I'm going to use Excel. I kind of comma, you could have comma separated text, whatever, but I'm going to do it this way. And so notice there was no button to click up here, but now there is a button to click here. So I can start now with my process of exporting the files. understanding that underneath that, we're going to come back to creating labels, and that's going to be the second part of that process. Okay, so we're going to go up in here. I'm looking at my data. I'm going to click on my export files. It has pulled it up in the lower right hand corner. I'm going to click on that. And again, I'm doing the easy, free, create it yourself, something I can manipulate the data at another time. And so I'm going to enable editing because why? Because I want to sort the columns. I want to do all kinds of stuff with it. So I click on enable editing, and then here it is. And again, here's my addresses, foreclosure indicators. I don't see any in there, but look at these addresses, and these all again have America Way addresses. Remember what I said earlier? I may want to remove that street address and hit, because when I hit Spindrift, it's going to hit everything in the community. Okay, so here's my zip plus 4 on all these. I've got my APN numbers. And again, you know how to expand these if you have to. And then I've got my owner's names up here, all broken down as it was before. And then I can see my last sale date. Look at that, 1997, 2019, 2017. So again, it's meeting the criteria that I wanted, which is they were the last sale that I'm going to receive in here was going to be back in 2020. Okay. All right. That being said, I've got my sales price. I've got all kinds of happy information in here, my taxable amount, and then finally my year built over here on the right hand side. Pretty much all going to be 1985, right? That's when this community was built. Okay. All right. So now I've got this is my Excel. This is my spreadsheet. Remember when I was doing the oh, shoot, you can't see it. Oh, thank you. Somebody's about to tell me that. Darn it. Okay, now you can see it. Who is it? Okay, so hi, Kevin. Don't see it. Thank you, Miriam. Thank you. I'm sorry, folks. I have a separate computer over here so I can, look at it to see if you can see what I'm talking about. And unfortunately, I don't always look at it. So created a problem. So there it is. So this pulled up the Excel spreadsheet for the, obviously for my farming kit. So if I'm going to be knocking on doors on this street, now I've got them in the order that they, my walking order, and I'm going to know who everybody is. So my advice to people, and of course you've been to my other webinars, I always talk about that clipboard, and I always talk about having your list in front of you, and that's what this is. Okay, and so it's going to be going door to door. I want to be able to do that. And if I do this on Excel spreadsheet, and you're probably much more, Linda's my Excel person. I don't have a clue. I can do some things, but not a lot. But anyway, so she creates whole separate columns, for you to take notes, so that it prints with a long column, so you can write it down, pen and paper, whatever, while you're walking door to door, while you're at your open house, for example. If you're at your open house, you should have this list. You should know everybody's there, because the first open house always brings in all the neighbors, right? So I want to do that. Okay, so that's the point behind all of that. Everybody good with that part? I'm going to take you back to where we were, and this time I will check to make sure you can see it. There we go. Okay, so what we did here was we clicked on export files, and so now we have created a file, and we've eliminated the duplicates. Everybody okay with that? Then I'm going to scroll down here, because now I want to talk about creating labels, and you're going to love this part. This part's fun. So printing labels, how do I want that to be? I want to include the title on the first line. I want to include a line or current resident. So that tells me I'm targeting people with that are I'm targeting the property itself, even though the true owner of the property may be off-site. I'm going to handle that separately, because I definitely want to hit those with a different marketing piece, right? I know you don't live in your house. Have you thought about selling it? That kind of thing. Okay, so replace the name with custom text. Dear happy Spindrift homeowner. Whatever. Okay, everybody good? So these are checked. You don't have to do including a line or current resident, but if you're sending it to Bob, and Bob is an offsite owner, but it's going to the address where not to Bob's address, but to the situs address, then you might want to uncheck that box. So, okay. All right. Notice that 5160s are the mailing label, the choice of mailing label. It's going to show up in a PDF format. And Miriam, this time I'm going to watch what I'm doing to make sure. But then down here, I'm going to select my starting label, and then I'm going to click the create label button. Obviously, my starting label, I'm going to start with number 1, and I'm going to show you why I may go back in there and start with number 2 or start with number 3. But let's get there. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to click on create labels down here in the lower right hand corner. Everybody with me? All right, Miriam, stay with me. I'm watching my screen. So creating my mailing labels. Boom. Oh, look at that. You can see that. You see that? Yeah, I know you can see that. Okay, so this is going to create my mailing labels. Again, there's cancel or current resident, Cardi or current resident. It's got everybody in there or current resident. And I don't know why it's doing it this way, because I don't need to, I have Adobe Acrobat Pro 11 Pro, so I don't know why it's doing that. Let me download it, because I like the formatting. And we're going to put this up here on the desktop so I can remember to delete it later. And I'm going to click on that. There we go. That should be oh, lovely. Collects it in the same place. Okay, it's not supposed to do that, but all right, we'll work with it. Okay. All right. So again, these are my mailing labels, and again, they're designed to go to the 5160, the Avery labels that you buy at the stationery store that are the 5160s. Everybody okay with that? Again, these are all my 27. Okay, everybody good? Includes Jeff. Jeff's right there. Okay. All right. So let's go back to where we were. And again, those mailing labels, you would put them, you would send it to your printer. Obviously, you've got the mailing labels in the printer feed already, and then it will print those out for you, and you're good to go. And so, one of the things I should have looked for that I didn't. So let's pull it up again here. There you go. So notice the zip +4s. Okay. All right. Okay. So that being said, back to this. And again, that was my property search, and then my power prospecting we've already talked about. But however, I do want to search the neighborhood, and again, now you can see that the street name has been redacted. But again, I want to put my Spindrift in there and not put in America Way. So there we go, Spindrift Del Mar. And then obviously my zip code, less is better always, 92014. As I said earlier, I'm going to go back to July 1st of 2020. I'll show you why I'm doing this in just a second. So I click on my submit button, but down here at the bottom, I had my prospect list. That's what it's going to create for me. And now notice I have a lot more. I have 117 properties because I did not restrict myself only to America Way. Part of the downside of that is like 822 America Way number 80. I don't think that should be in the same community. But obviously I'll know when I pull up my mailing labels. So you can see I have like 4 different sets of these things. Clipper Court is a street name up on the above part of this that I knew was there. Bill Furman, he's an attorney. He's been there for a long time up on Clipper Court. I think he does work for the homeowners. Bill Petrie lives up there if you're looking for real estate agents. So anyway, just, like somebody asked me the other day, do you know everybody? And it's like, nah, I think there's about 2 or 3 that I don't know, but we'll figure it out. So anyway, this would be a much more extensive list. And then as we saw earlier, I'm looking for my pre-foreclosure. There aren't any on this page at least, but we're going to take you to that to figure that part out here in just a second. So anyway, what I did here was I put in the subdivision name, and then I put the date from 2020 and back, so that, I'm not pulling up people that just bought their property in the last 3 years, because they're not likely to be a seller. Okay. All right. And I'm looking at this list, and a lot of these people I know are not going to move. So trying to see if it looks like I can see any offhand that look at that, Andre Reed. I think that's the football player, right? Okay. Anyway, so everybody follow me on that. That's my power prospecting. I want to go back over now to my property search. Why? Because I promised you pre-foreclosure properties. And the way we're going right now, will probably get done a little bit early today. So Miriam, you can see that okay? But I do, like I said earlier, I do want to also show you the tax record. So when I'm in here, if I want to, and I'm going to take a break to do that, okay, because I've only got 56 minutes left on my screen. So we'll come back to foreclosure in just a second. I'm at Paragon, I'm in Paragon now, and I want to input a listing, okay? And so I'm going to click on add a listing. I'm going to click on residential. And this is the power of this tax information that we have and how it talks to you in the program. So here's what a listing input is going to look like. And again, I thank SDMLS. They give me a lot of leeway. Thank you, Miriam. They give me a lot of leeway on stuff because they know I teach these classes, but I've yet to make the mistake of actually saving a listing I didn't have. So far, so good. So I'm going to go up here to my tax autofill. Now, if you pay attention to nothing else, you pay attention to this. So see where it says tax autofill, and I've clicked the drop down, and then I'm going to go down. I'm going to click on CRS tax autofill, okay? And so it's going to have some specific stuff that it's going to need me to do. So right now, nothing shows up here, and I see my R field is going to be my county. And so again, you know, I can look in San Diego County. And by the way, as we saw a minute ago, I can go up into other counties, right? I can start mailing things to Riverside County. If I think there's going to be a mass influx of people into San Diego from Riverside, and I want to start sending them mailings, you know, we're mailing, you know, create mailing labels for them, then that's going to be a great resource for me. All right. So right now it still says 0 up here under the count. And the reason that it says that is because the list is just huge. All right. So let's go down here. I can look by owner's last name. I won't look up anybody that's on our webinar today. First name, street number, street direction, street name. So let's go ahead. I'm going to pull up a street name, and I'm going to type in America again, since we're picking on them today. And I'm going to click on way. And then I'm going to tab out of it. And once you tab out of it, it's going to run a count. It says, aha, we see 30 properties that are on a street called America Way. Now, if I want to narrow it down, I can go up here to street number, and I can type in 825 or 811 or any of the other ones that I know. But again, I'm looking for a list at this point. Okay. But because I'm in this case, I'm inputting it into an MLS listing, I need to actually find one property. Okay. So I'm going to, and again, this is under my tax autofill. You see my hyperlink over here, CRS tax autofill. So I'm going to go ahead here, and I'm going to type in, again, we're going to pick on Jeff. No offense, Jeff. I'm going to pick on that. Oh, there's one. Okay. And that's kind of what I'm looking for. I don't want 30. I want one. And so I click on my search button, and then it pops up the tax record for 811 America Way. And so here it is. I've got my tax ID number. I've got my address, zip code, bedrooms, bathrooms. It's also showing me, you know, all the information we saw earlier, built in 85, zoning, the owner's name, all that. And so I go, okay, that is the property. This is going to save you a lot of time. I'm going to go back up here to tax autofill again, and I'm going to say, do it. Okay. So whoops, I got to select a record. See, that shows you I'm not as bright as I look. I'm going to go up here. I'm going to click on the tax ID number, and then I'm going to click on that again, my tax autofill button. Obviously I can do other stuff in there, but I'm focusing right now on my tax autofill. Okay, now this is important. So here it's going to pop up the information as it appears from the tax record. And so remember, I want to accept the information in the MLS in the tax record when I'm inputting a listing in the MLS. All right. Now, one of the things I wished I had done, which I didn't, was how many fields do I have left? So I'm going to hit cancel just for a second. I'm going to go down here. I see I have 65 remaining fields. 76 are required, but 11 fields were filled out just by virtue of knowing that it's me. Right. So I'm inputting a listing. So it already knows it's residential because that's what I clicked on. It already knows it's a new listing. That's the second R. The third R is it knows my name because I'm logged in. Right. And then what's after that? It already knows my listing office, obviously. But what I want to do is I want to fill in, it knows California, hopefully, right? Hopefully I'm not taking a listing in Baja or something, but so it's going to input some things. Optional bedroom 0, but it doesn't know anything else. Okay, so now I want to go back up there. I'm going to do that tax autofill again, knowing down here in the lower left-hand corner, I have 65 fields to go. I click on my tax autofill. I apologize, I got to do this all over again. And all I need is that D, and I've got that. And then I've got street name again. It's going to be America. Sorry about that. I wish I'd done that right the first time. I wanted to show you how many characters were left so that I can show you how many, we're gonna, how much time we've saved, right? Even though I've done this again. So street number again, I'm gonna go back, picking on Jeff, we're gonna do 811. I've got 1 on the count. I'm gonna click on search. And again, this time I'm going to click the button in front of that property, and then I'm going to go back up and I'm going to click on tax autofill. Is everybody with me on that? And then this pops up my window that says, here are the values we're going to load into the listing. So this is a significant number. Okay, so for example, it knows how many bedrooms. All right, so now if I go out to the property and I see a 3rd bedroom, what does that tell me? And I get this call all the time. So it's got 2 bedrooms in the tax record, but I go out there and it very clearly has 3 bedrooms. So there's a lot of questions that come up at that point. Are they permitted? Why is there a discrepancy between what the county knows and what the physical structure has, and there's a lot of reasoning behind what that could be. So for example, it shows a 2-bedroom, but there's 3 bedrooms, and it could very well be a lot of the properties are permitted. It's just that the county forgets to update their records. That's one of the very real possibilities, is that it just didn't get updated. And again, I get court cases on this, unfortunately, people disputing what was, why doesn't it say what the county says? And if it's got, the county record shows 1,000 square feet, but it's actually got 1,800 square feet, where the other 800 square feet come from. It don't necessarily assume that if they weren't permitted, obviously you want to pay a company to go pull the permits on it. You don't want to do that yourself. Okay. But those are helpful ways to get that information. Let's see, who do I have here? Somebody, Carly, Kaylee, get your hand up. No. I don't know why you're the only one showing up on there. Okay. All right. So anyway, I see my bedrooms. I see my square footage again. There's no fireplace. There's what else? There's the street address. There's my Thomas Brothers coordinates. And then my year bill. That's the next really important feature. So I've confirmed that it's the right property. So I'm going to hit my save button. And when I hit save button, it's going to go in here and it's going to input those fields that it just picked up. And look down here. I saved another 10 fields. Okay. Now it becomes important when you're inputting your listing, and 9 times out of 10, we're in a hurry, right? But I just saved 10 things. Okay, so what happened there? So it's got my assessor's parcel number loaded. It's got the address loaded. It's got the city. It's got the county, Del Mar. It's got all these things. There's the Thomas Brothers guide, which is not a required field. I don't even know if there is a Thomas Brothers guide. So it still has some remaining, but obviously it's filled in a lot of them that I did not have before. Okay, so there's my year built. Again, I wouldn't go changing that unless you're prepared to defend it. But some of these other fields that we're going to need to have are going to be, like entry only. So we're not entry only. So entry only would be, I'm only going to enter it in the multiple listing service. Variable rate commission says that at the time that I took the listing, did I make a deal with the seller that if I brought the offer in myself, I would sell it for less money. And so I have to tell other real estate agents that, and in case I have an advantage by virtue of that. So you see what I'm saying? It fills in my square footage. It fills in my year built date. And I just wanted to show you, I'm not going to go through the whole thing because this isn't a listing input class, but this is a class on how this stuff can save you a lot of time and energy. Okay. All right. So that's really kind of the gist of all that. Let's go back over to my CRS tax data, because I'm kind of excited to show you. I wanted to show you the benefit of doing the tax autofill. Let's take a look at my foreclosure field. And really, again, technically, we don't have foreclosures in San Diego or in California because foreclosures go to mortgages. So again, it's a year of law school, secured land transactions. But foreclosures go to mortgages. Trustee sales go to deeds of trust. And so in California, the the most popular way of putting a lien against a property is by doing it as a deed of trust, in which case there are three parties, right? You got your trustor, your trustee, and your beneficiary, versus a state that does mortgages. And in that case, we're going to have a mortgagor and a mortgagee. And so I know it doesn't seem to be important, but it becomes really important when they try to take your property back. And part of the reason behind that is that it's a lot more difficult for them to take the property back in a mortgage state, in a foreclosure state. And then they have other issues like, rights of redemption. Like Florida's got an 18-month right of redemption, which means they got to hang on to the property because the borrower could come back and buy it back within 18 months, and it's got to be available for them. So, but in California, start to finish, minimum 4 months. Once they take the property back, they do a trustee sale. Once they take the property back, there's no recourse by the bank. They give up. I'm sorry, if it's a non-recourse loan, there's no recourse. They're done. The worst they can do is fry your credit, but they really can't chase you personally unless a number of conditions exist, including you lied on your loan or stuff like that. So there's always a possibility. So anyway, I've got my foreclosure. I'm looking in San Diego County now, and I'm going to go down here. And this is important. What foreclosure type do I want to have? All right. And so I can see to the right of it, only active foreclosure records. I'm thinking that's pretty important. So I'm going to check that box, right? Because I don't want to do stuff that's already been taken care of, been resolved, been sold, whatever. But I'm probably, when I click my drop down under foreclosure type, I'm probably not going to do auction. I'm probably going to do pre-foreclosure. And this is one of the reasons we talked about this. This is why the heading is the way that it is because I want to talk about the property before it goes to the bank. Now, if you're in the market for taking listings on properties that are bank owned, that's a whole separate class, right? And so I can tell you I've been involved in that, and it's not the mecca that people are. What is it? It's not the panacea that people think it is. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to look at pre-foreclosures. Everybody follow me here? My drop down. I'm going to click on pre-foreclosure, and I only want active records. I don't care about defendant. I don't care about document number unless I'm targeting somebody individually. And what about my filing date? Well, again, I think a pre-foreclosure property that is more than 10 years old is probably not going to be effective. But obviously, I don't want to put in an ending date because I want the, when was it filed? And maybe I want it filed back, 23, maybe. How about 7 years? So we'll go back 7 years. And again, I have to hit one of these numbers in here in order for it to load. So anything filed after July 1st of 2016. Okay, does that make sense? Auction date, I don't want that. Mortgage, sorry about the spelling. Mortgage is incorrectly spelled there. Mortgage date, mortgage amount. Those are all going to be immaterial to me. Again, my important things are San Diego County. Maybe I'll start looking out in El Centro or something like that. But for pre-foreclosure, I'm going to check the box that says only active foreclosure records. And I only want stuff that's been filed since 2016. If we think about it, when did our economy change? Our economy actually changed back in January of 12. And that's when the ride began, as we say. And I remember because I had people calling me from the Four Corners asking me, about, what is going on. And so, because I do a lot of work on value of property in retrospect, and it's just like they turned the lights on and everything was going crazy. So I don't need location. I don't need any of these things. Again, I do want to limit it a little bit. So how am I going to do that? Well, I kind of like that zip code. So let's take a look at zip code. Let's take a look at 92130. Okay, 92130 Carmel Valley. And I'm going to probably surprise you with the fact that there's more properties than you might think. So 92130, and I'm going to click on my submit button. And now that's going to produce 16 properties, which is 3 more than it did when I did this class 3 months ago. Okay, so and so here's my legend down here. I'm not going to probably change anything. I like the date I called out, and now I can see when I'm looking in here. And I apologize if any of these people, or if you're one of these people, but it's public record. So anyway, so if I want to change any of this information, I can go back up there and change it and then just update my results, or I can start completely over again. So I see I have one on Rancho Capistrano Bend, and that's in Carmel Valley, and that's Royal Capital Holdings, Del Mar Highlands Estates. There's my APN number. And so when I look at that, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to click on the button in front of it, and that's going to give me what we're already familiar with. This is why we were laying the groundwork on a lot of this, and it's not currently listed. So, but this is the property address, and that little blue icon means pre-foreclosure, right? So, so maybe I want to go, and so let's talk about that just for a second. I probably don't want to go to the property and knock on the door and say, "Hey, did you know your property's in pre-foreclosure?" Okay, that would be tacky to say the least. Okay, but am I going to mail things? Or it's interesting, I was teaching this class the last time, and I was telling everybody, hey, if you happen to be knocking on doors in the neighborhood, and I'm not sure if this is a gated community or not, but if you're knocking on doors in the neighborhood, and you just happen to come across this property, well, kind of like you knew that it was there, right? You knock on the door, and then anybody who's thinking about buying or selling, whatever. One of the conversations you might have with people is that a lot of people don't realize they can sell their home, and without targeting this person individually, without letting them know that you're aware that it may be going back to sale. You may have that conversation with them that you might be able to stop that. You might be able to sell the property. Remember, they own the property up until the bank takes it back. But a lot of times, when they stop making payments on property, they just completely stop. And unfortunately, a lot of times they move out of the property, and that's the worst thing you can do, right? Because the bank's going to send somebody by to see whether or not there's anybody occupying the property, and if there's nobody occupying the property, it's going to kick them into another term, which is when they're going to do what we call winterizing the property, which is something more common on the East Coast. But literally, they have to protect the asset, right? Because that's the security interest. Is the deed of trust, but the property is the security for the loan. And so they have a right to protect the asset. And if the property's been abandoned, then that creates a whole nother problem. And so so they don't want that to happen. They want to take care of the property. And again, I don't mean to be picking on anybody, but this is public information. Look at that, 6,900 feet, 6,987 feet. That's a pretty good size home. Okay, so but I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Now, sometimes we have things called strategic defaults, right? People that will default, and it'll we're hoping they're not doing buy and bails and stuff like that. But I am getting the weirdest information on my screen. Okay, all right. So anyway, so there you have the address. Can you send mailing pieces to all these people? Certainly. I'll show you how to do that in just a second. But again, I've got the tax ID number. We're looking at one specific property. Look at $3.3 million lien against the property created in 05. I suspect there's a lot of equity probably in this home. And so, they may be a good candidate for selling the property and maybe not falling short. So there can be a lot of reasons. Some people, most people, they don't make the payment, and it's tough because it's something you want to keep in mind that once they stop making payment. So normally what happens is, you have a late, your loan goes late if the payment isn't made by the 15th or the 16th of the month, and then it becomes late. And so when somebody sends in a payment, some people send them in on the 15th to get there the 15th, and it doesn't get there until the 17th. Well, what happens is the bank's not aware that the payment didn't come in until the 17th until almost weeks later. And so what happens is roll around the first of the next month, and then the borrower sends in the check again, and it's also late. But now the bank is sending back the first check saying you're late, and they're really not going to accept any other payments until you resend that payment along with the late fee. Remember, they can't, depending on the loan, they can't charge you a late fee during that non-assessable grace period, which is 16 days in most cases. So, but they don't even know that it's late, because again, it goes to a whole other department. And then once they realize it's late, they send the first one back. In the meantime, you sent the second one. And so that's going to come back too, but that's going to take weeks before that happens. And so as that process occurs, the notice of default tends to get filed after the second missed payment. So your payments due on the 1st of July, for example, and it doesn't get there until the 17th of July. And again, we're doing kind of a mini class on how to handle this, but it's late on the 16th, late on the 17th of July, and then on the 1st of August, the next payment goes out, but it doesn't get there until the 17th of August. The first one's now coming back, and you're upside down. At that point, they file the notice of default. Once you miss the second payment, they can file the notice of default. Doesn't happen every single time, but it's usually the case. And in this economy, they figure there's something else probably going on. My advice always for the homeowner is try to work something out with the lender. But again, your job, you are allowed to talk to the lender again with permission from the owner. We have a form for that called the ARC, the Authorization to Release and Convey, and that form is in your Zip Forms program. And so get the seller's authorization to talk to the lender. You have authority to talk to the lender for purposes of sale, not for purposes of modifying the loan. That's going to get you in a lot of trouble. So you can talk to them about, excuse me, talk to the lender about the sale with permission from the owner to do that. Okay, so that's why I always recommend, get that, when you're at that point, get that authorization to release and convey, look at the taxes on this. So the taxes are $38,000 a year. So it looks like the tax situation's okay, but it's the loan. Construction loan. Oh, look at that. Okay, so a construction loan, but again, that's back in 2005. So anyway, here's my pre-foreclosure. And so I wanted to show you the pre-foreclosure details. I still have more stuff to show you, but got all the stuff in here that we saw before. But then when I get down here to the view foreclosure details, it's going to pop up the pre-foreclosure. The filing date was 2018. So literally 5 years ago. All right. And so, but obviously within our window, we didn't want anything after 2020. I'm sorry, that was when we were looking at properties for purposes of resale. So here's my instrument, the original instrument date of 10/25. So let's see what else. Anything else in there that's important. So here's the plaintiff's attorney. They're very popular, CNA Foreclosure Services, and again, this is the attorney or the lender, and there's the telephone number. So I promised you all kinds of really good information. There's the telephone number. Be judicious about calling the attorney. Have a plan. Make it short, make it sweet. Don't get into a great big long conversation. I'm going to click on the book number and see if I can get anything out of San Diego County. And so it's going to give me a lot of information. Now it wants the document number. So I may have to go back to the property. Here's my document number. So copy, paste, and then search. And see what I'm saying? But again, I've only got a handful of properties to do this with. And so when I'm looking at it here, I see quite a history: notice of default, substitution of trustee, reconveyance, quitclaim deeds, things like that. There's a lot going on with that property, and a lot of lenders involved in that as well. Okay, so good information to have. And again, it helps me by, I can click on things and pull up the actual document, stuff like that. And my notice of default was filed, et cetera, et cetera. You can't see that page, so hang on a second. Let me pull that one up. There you go. Okay, so that's what happened when I clicked on that link. All right, everybody good? Okay, I'm gonna take myself back over to this page because you don't need the other page. And again, that's the information I'm pulling up from that little bit of stuff that we have right there. And if anything, I got a hold of the attorney, and I'm probably going to call the attorney and just say, hey, I specialize in short sales and stuff like that. Is there anything I can do to help? Send a letter. Letters tend not to be incredibly effective with attorneys, but certainly doesn't hurt. So again, all the characteristics, all the stuff we looked at before are all included in here. Also, area of minimal flood hazard. Again, the 500-year flood level Okay, and there is no listing to look at, so it hasn't been on the market, so they haven't really given it a chance yet, right? So again, that's all the information on that one. But let's go back to my search results, because maybe what I want to be doing is I want to be sending letters to all these people. So that was the first one we pulled in on that, and there's a handful of others that are in there as well, and see if there's any notables. No. Okay. So again, I got 15 results per page, and it says I have a second page. So I'm going to go now to 20 results, and excuse me. And again, these are all on one page. Sorry, I'm aspirating. Oh, look at that, 4081 Tyneborn. So that's in Carmel Valley, right? So here's my whole list of 16 properties that are pre-foreclosure. I'm going to click on this button here, which is going to grab all of them. Okay, and then I go down here and I'm at the bottom, and I'm going to look at my exports and labels. I can print my list, but I can also do my exports and labels. So you see how now I'm switching gears and sending things out to the actual properties that I'm targeting. Again, use discretion when you're sending it in the letter. Don't put in there, hey, guess what? We help foreclosure properties, things like that. I wouldn't be doing that kind of thing, but if you want help with your letter, let me know. Send me an email. I'll help you with it. Again, talk to your broker about what's appropriate, what isn't, that kind of thing. But that's going to be how I create my labels. And so that's going to get me going. And again, these are in my property search, but again, specifically, these are in my foreclosure search. Is everybody okay with that? So again, so I see when I look in Carmel Valley that I've got 16 properties. Well, what happens when I go here to foreclosure and I want to look in another area? So, what would be another area? I don't know, Rancho Santa Fe, right? So again, I'm going to do my pre-foreclosure. I'm going to do only the foreclosure records. Let me go down in here, and I'm going to look for 92067. And again, I feel bad because I never know when I'm going to find something, somebody that is fairly popular. 15 properties in Rancho Santa Fe. Is there anybody here today that would like to go after 15 pre-foreclosure properties? Remember, you can sell the property up until the bank takes it. Okay. And so a lot of times you can initiate that short sale process by starting that conversation. Remember, they can't do what they call dual tracking, and dual tracking is where they're working the foreclosure at the same time they're talking to you about the short sale. So once you get that approval and you get them to agree to talk to you about short sales, then they've got to stop doing the foreclosure. Again, you might have it might be helpful to have an attorney somewhere that can watch this. 15 properties, these are not going to be low end. Again, we have an attorney in our office who's a bankruptcy attorney, and so sometimes they come to him for bankruptcy, and he thinks that the best thing for them, they've got tons of equity. He hates to see them lose the property. The bankruptcy will create a 90-day stay, which means that nothing's going to happen. Nobody's going to get that property for 90 days. But what happens when they come out of it? The bank doesn't have to start over again. So, that's one of the reasons why we try to get in there and have the conversation ahead of time. And again, that's a lot of property. And so in scrolling down through all this, I've got, quite a list. So again, this is 15. So now I had Carmel Valley that had 17, 16, arguably 17. I think one of them was a duplicate. And then I've got Rancho Santa Fe that's got, another 15. So for those of you who are actually listening to this webinar, you've got, I'm seeing some people in here I know. Again, I'm not here to try to make them feel bad, but what am I going to do? I'm going to check my box right here because I'm going to send mailing pieces to all of them. Now, by the way, I'm not going to do that. I'm just telling you that this is probably what I would do. And then I'm going to do my export, my labels again. I'm going to go back up here, remove exact duplicates so I don't double that up. And do I want to skip records with no zip codes? I don't think so. I think I want to keep those in there. And then down here it says number of exports. It's calculating it, but it thinks it's at least 11. And then I'm going to uncheck that. And then and again, I've already shown you how to do the export files. It says it's calculating the number for me. All right. No, I don't have a little spinny thing up here. So, okay, so I'm going to move forward with it. But anyway, export the files, or in my case, I'm going to probably go down here. I don't know if I've replaced the name with current resident. And so I'm going to go ahead and create my mailing labels. Okay, so boom, create the mailing label. And then Miriam, keep an eye on me, will you? Click the box, pops. Okay, it's going to pop it up on your screen. And so here are the, 3, 4s, 12. So 11 total mailing labels ready to go. You're all set. Go ahead and put it in your put your 5160 Avery labels in your printer, and this will at least take care of the front. Now, I'm a strong believer in handwriting things, and part of the reason behind that is people get solicited all the time with mailing labels. I'm probably going to handwrite the letter so that so that at least it'll look more personal. I handwrite the return address. If you if you use a label on the return address, they gotcha, especially if it says I'm a real estate agent, that kind of thing. So I want them to open the letter. That's kind of important because I don't have a whole lot of time to make a good impression with them. But that's going to give me my mailing labels for purposes of all this. And I mentioned earlier, maybe we start with number 2, which just means we just skip the first one. That's all that's going to really do. Okay. Everybody good? Anybody have any questions about any of that? I am going to let you out of here early today. I think we're pretty much have shown you really everything. Let me see here. So back to my property search again. That's how I got to property versus foreclosure. Now, if you're in the market to send a lot of mailing pieces out, then and then again, you want, for example, let's pull on America Way again. I'm going to pull up America Way, and maybe I just want to send mailing labels out around the neighbors of that area. Maybe I'm going to click on my comps, but I'm probably more likely to do prospecting. And again, notice it highlights that my map is working again. And so, as I said earlier, I'm probably going to eliminate the street name. And again, I'm going to keep the Spindrift Del Mar. I'm probably going to eliminate phase 2. So let's do that. I'm just going to do it Spindrift Del Mar, and then the zip code, and I'm going to do my submit. And so why? Because I want to hit the entire community. And so then down here below, it shows I have 144 properties within that community. So if you're really getting robust, and here's one that says that it's expired, but if you're really going to get robust, now you're really sending out some mailing pieces. Now you don't have to send to all 144 of them. You can go through here and you can say, well, this one here is sold. Sold on in May of 21. Maybe that's a little too soon to hit them up, but again, it creates a great farming package for me. Okay, this one here is for sale. Again, that's Jeff's for 5,100. This one here is going to be sold again, also in 2021. So these are properties that sold fairly frequently. You make the decision as to whether or not you want to be mailing pieces to them. Okay, everybody good with that? All right, so 144 properties. If it's not too much, then I can go row to row and take a look at these. Defender Court, Clipper Court, they're up in the high part, the what we call the bluffs, and let me see, anything else in here. Intrepid Court again is down by the pool, down in the lower. Obviously, I know this area pretty well. It's not going to change much. Again, right up above Flower Hill Mall. I just think it's a great little place. And then finally, the handful of the others that are here that obviously I've got a handful of sold ones. This one just sold April of this year. And so, the question I have for you is, look at that $950,000 sales price for a 2-bedroom, 1.5 bath. And that's going to be, again, one of the smaller units, 1,208 square feet, which, by the way, was the same size. Oh, no, the 811 America was larger, 1,300 square feet, but 1,208 is the smallest square footage in there. It sold for $950,000. Do you think you want to be marketing these? So again, if I'm going to go ahead and create my labels, I'm going to go down here. I don't have any of them up for auction. I can go down here, proceed to labels and exports, just like we've been doing. I'm probably going to, I want to undo these restrictions. It doesn't have a zip code. It doesn't have a zip code, but I don't think I'm going to have any properties in there that are going to do that. And again, do it by whatever formula you are comfortable with, whether it's comma separated or whether it's Excel or whatever. I like Excel because I can usually hand it to Linda and ask her to fix it, especially if I mess things up. So hopefully you have somebody like that, or you're somebody like that. So creating my labels again. So let's go ahead down here. I'm going to create my labels. And so this is going to create essentially what, 144 labels, right? So and according to this is the third set that I've created for this. So obviously I'll be spending some time deleting my downloads because there's been quite a few of those. But here they are, 3 across, which is the way the 5160 works on Avery labels. But look at all this. And so, you know, again, when I teach the farming, you know, master my farm, don't take on too much. I think that 144, I don't know. So figure that's going to be, you don't send out one set of mailings and expect results. You know, you're going to end up having to do it for a while. I would commit to at least a year. And whether you're going to create your own, and I have people that'll do that for you if you're interested. But then there are also companies out there. I just contacted one I used to use back in the 90s that is still in business, still going strong, $25, and they'll send a mailing piece to your client once a year for 5 years. So, you know, again, as I've said before, people, NAR did a survey and they said, why didn't you work with the agent that sold you the house? And the answer is, we don't remember who they were. They stopped talking. They never communicated with us after the closing. 88% said they would work with the agent that sold them the property. And yet, why not? Well, because they never kept in touch. We don't know how to get a hold of them. Okay. Now, again, I'm the master of messing that up. I've had clients walk the streets of Del Mar looking for me and finding me ultimately, which is kind of cool. But again, I need to be a little less of a secret agent and be a little more effective as a real agent. So here it is, 144. So what is that? Figure $1 a piece. So, you're spending $144 a month to send out a mailing piece. And if you remember when I gave you that homework assignment, send out 1 a week for 8 weeks, and then 1 a month for the balance of the year is going to be a total of 18 mailings. Okay. And so 18 mailings times, $1 a piece, do the math. Is it something that you're interested in doing? And so I'm looking up in here, offsite owner. I'm looking down here. This person lives at 18291 North Pima Road in Scottsdale. Very well-to-do neighborhood, by the way. And they own this property here. I don't know the property address because, again, I'm sending it as a mailing label. But that's some serious. That's a very expensive property they own on North Pima Road. And so then, are there any others? A lot of these are living in the properties, or at least have that as an address. Here's somebody from Tacoma, Washington. So maybe what I'm doing is sending out mailing pieces to absentee owners, a separate mailing piece, by the way, to absentee owners. Then I'm going to send to the owner occupants of the property, right? So, but I'm going to have a total of 3. One of them is going to go to owner occupants of property. The other one is going to go to the absentee owners. And on those absentee owners, I'm going to have another piece go to the property address so that I can contact the tenant directly and see if the tenant is interested in buying or selling a house or doing something like that. Okay. So again, it's interesting how many of these are actually right in the community. So here's Sunrise Equity out of Newport Beach. And so how many of these are we seeing that are off-site? Here's Albuquerque, New Mexico. I'd be probably sending mailing if you're going to focus on absentee owners. Here's Mesa, California. This is going to be a great resource for you. Okay. So anybody have any questions about anything that we have covered here today? I'm going to go ahead and close that label, taking us back to the original. Now's a good time to ask. I'm going to go back up to my tax suite, which is going to take me, it's kind of like a refresh button, takes me back to my home page. I'm just looking to see if there's anything else. Maybe I'll do an advanced search. Maybe I'll search by map. It'd be great if the map feature was working. That's certainly not my fault, but oh, there we go. Okay, so there's my mapping feature. So maybe I'll start drilling into my map. Because maybe I want to do my mailing pieces based on an area that I'm going to determine is something that's marketable for me. And so let's go up to Del Mar, obviously a ways north of that. And I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to zoom in again. And so I got to keep adjusting my map because it doesn't do exactly what it's supposed to do. But here's Via de la Valle. So again, I can do my map search, and they're calling it now Del Mar Shopping Center. It used to be Flower Hill Mall. And again, obviously the property itself, here's Flower Hill Drive, and this is Spindrift up here. You can see it's pretty much landlocked. So there's a break right here, Highland Drive. It doesn't go past. There are no houses that go up onto Highland Drive. Everything is right included inside of this little number right here, and I want to make that point. So, again, I want to keep my expenses down, so I don't want to get crazy and send out too many mailing pieces. But Avocado Court, whole nother area. Avocado Place, whole nother area. Jeffrey Road, all those are different areas. The area I'm looking in is right in here within this square. All right. And again, how many do we say? We have 144. So again, I'm doing my homework. There is no access to Ramona Place from within this complex. Okay, so it's literally a landlocked complex just within this little grid right here. Everybody okay with that? And so, I can keep drilling in, obviously get a better idea what the structure looks like. Question, back to advanced search. There's my mapping search. So again, we were searching by map, but I can also look by zip code. Once again, Del Mar, submit. Something else you just saw on that last page was searching by property value. But there it is. There's viewing 15 results. So this is going to be a pretty good size list. That's why it's spinning. But let me take you back to that. There we go. Okay, so Del Mar, so 10th Street, obviously you're getting close to my house. You can look it down through here. You can see all these properties. So this is actually looking in a different part of Del Mar. And well, there you go, Dave Drucker. You see Dave Drucker? He's the former mayor of Del Mar. Where did he go? I had him there a second ago. And he's lived there for quite some time. There he is, Dave Drucker. He's right there, just a door away from Stratford Court. He bought that in 1986. So I can see all kinds of information about people that, that maybe I don't want to have, but there he is. There's his house, 157 10th Street. I didn't realize he was pretty close to where I live, only a couple blocks away. So anyway, so that's how we find some of our celebrities, so to speak. Okay. So, I mean, again, that's not the intention behind the program, but that's what we can do with it. So again, back to my advanced search and map search. I can search by map, but I can also search by property value. And I can also search by sales within the last period of time. So, maybe I don't want to touch anything under $1 million, right? And so I can tell you, in fact, let's make it $10 million because I'm going to search by, where's my, I want to search by zip code. So within the last 2 years, all right, where's my zip code? I may have to go up here to do that. It's fun stuff. So 92014, and then I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to click on my submit button. And no surprise there, 15 properties that sold in excess of $10 million. Isn't that something? And so is there a surprise that it's located down here in the middle of there's Sandy Lane. And again, that's Seaview LLC. I actually know who, in fact, I was on the phone with the neighbor there this last night. Some really nice people there, but obviously they're fairly well-heeled people. But Premier Realty Holdings, and again, so I can find out a lot of information. I can go up and down the sheet here and see who the neighbors are in that area. And again, I might want to treat them a little bit differently, perhaps. I don't know. I find they're the same as everybody else. They're just nice people that happen to own property. But maybe you decide you're going to target those. And so there's 6th Street, so pretty close. That's going to be what's his name's house. He owns. He's right next door to the owner of Women's World magazine. Owned the magazine. So got into a little thing with the city of Del Mar because he put a little golf course, short little putting green on his property, and they said you didn't have a permit. Anyway, that was a brief argument with the city of Del Mar. So okay, so that's really so all of that. Anybody have any questions about any of that? There's a lot of things you can do with this program, and again, the pre-foreclosures I think are great. I think, you know, if you're going to start sending out mailing pieces and you want to focus only on pre-foreclosure, get really good about that. Go into the CAR website. So let me take you in here. I want to show you something. I'm going to go to CAR and .org here. And they hate it when you call them CAR. So CAR.org, and that's going to be my California Association of Realtors. And then go up here and do a search and type in home equity sales. Okay, and then and watch this. There's this little law called the home equity sales contract, and this is Civil Code 1695, which I do a lot of talks on this. And unfortunately, and so if you're interested in any of that, of course, you got to log in, but they've got a really good, this is an excellent piece on something I think you should read if you're going to start targeting those kinds of properties. But again, as I said earlier, I do a lot of talks on this. Home equity sales contract law. I teach it in my law class. Here, the important part to remember is the four things. And so here are the four things. Property being sold is residential 1 to 4. Well, of course it is, right? The owner is living in the property. An NOD has been recorded against the property. So if you're looking at those pre-foreclosures, check to see if there's an NOD filed. And then the buyer doesn't intend to occupy the property. And by loose terms, that's going to be an equity purchaser. And so this law took effect back in, what was it, 1978. And it's still on the books today. And it says essentially it's a crime to write the offer unless you do it. And there it is, Civil Code 1695. I mentioned that a minute ago. And so you need to use the notice of default purchase agreement if you're writing an offer. So if you're going to take a listing on one of these properties, you're okay as the seller's agent. It's the buyer's agent that needs to worry about it. Okay. And so I'm looking for a date in here, and they didn't put the date, but pretty positive it was 1978. Only when the owner actually live in the residence subject to foreclosure. Yeah, so we know that already. That's one of the four conditions. Sorry about that. I can't find a date in here. Pretty positive it's 1978. I've done enough talks on this thing, but here are the damages, actual damages, attorney's fees and costs, exemplary damages, right? And so you don't want to go the wrong way on this, but we have a form for it, and that's the notice of default purchase agreement. And so it's considerably longer than the 16-page purchase agreement that you use today. But really, the only difference is a couple of pages devoted to giving the seller notice of the right to rescind the contract within 5 days. So the seller can, even though they've agreed to sell it, they can say no. And so, be aware of that. But the famous, the Schweitzer case, and that was 4th District. I still don't have a date, but that case was the case that said that they couldn't require you to post a bond. There was here it is right here, previous bonding requirement. So in other words, you couldn't even write an offer on it unless you could post a bond, but there wasn't a bond available in the state of California. So the Schweitzer case came back and said, no, we got to eliminate that because it's just can't even get the bond. And then of course they tried to have it appealed it, and that got denied. So anyway, be aware of that. You can do some pretty good transactions based on that. So anybody have any questions on anything we've talked about here today? Going once, going twice. I'll take us back to our webinar material. So there you go. Again, really seriously, I want to help you. If there's any questions about any of this, go ahead and ask. So let's take a look. We did that. If you do want to look at any of our previous webinars, I've been loading all these up into the YouTube website. So I created a website, a YouTube website. I learned how to do QR codes. So here we go. Get your QR code reader ready. You probably have it. It's on your phone, right? And so get your QR code reader ready. And there it is. So just zoom in on that. It'll take you straight to the website. I'm very proud of what I've done there. It takes a while to upload because they're all 2 hours. Okay. I'm going to start doing some shorter ones for my purposes. So if you have a topic that you want to hear me talk about, please let me know, email me, send me call me. Don't send me a text. You don't know what my cell phone number is, so it's not going to matter. Don't text me. I tend to auto block people that text me. Question. When searching for, hi Joe, when searching foreclosures, can you tell me the file date to input again? Okay, great question. All right, so let's go back to that really quick. We're going to go to our, here we go. So I'm going to go to CRS tax data. And so when I'm searching for my foreclosures, I think that on a foreclosure, and let's click on foreclosures. I think that with a foreclosure, if it's a foreclosure, 10 years old, then it's probably not going to survive only active foreclosure records. You see right here where I clicked on only active foreclosure records. Can you see that? Yes. Okay. So I only want active ones. Now, maybe you don't put anything else in here. I think you should put in pre-foreclosure because I'm not interested in doing an auction or a release or anything like that. I want pre-foreclosure. So maybe I leave that alone. San Diego County, I think that's going to be a huge number. So if I'm going to put in a date, if I want to restrict the date, so obviously I don't want to put an end date because it could be today. But maybe my file date, I think if I go back 5 years, that's probably, if it hasn't foreclosed by now, it's probably not going to. There's probably other issues. But what happens when I leave that figure alone and I just click on my submit button? I have 2,098 properties in San Diego County that are pre-foreclosure. So again, check them out, look them up by whatever area that you want to be looking in, zip codes, whatever. So obviously a lot of properties in Chula Vista. I think that, and again, you're avoiding a lot of properties that may not be listed, but you're going to know because remember you'll have that icon next to it that says that it's listed. Okay, so so to answer your question, I'm probably going to do pre-foreclosure. I'm definitely going to only want to look at active foreclosure records, right? And then my date, if I'm going to have a date, and one of the things that we did was we said, well, let's go back to July 1st of 16, because I thought, well, 7 years, right? I mean, I think by then, if it hasn't foreclosed on, then there's something else going on. But I don't want to put an end date because I want that to be a rolling number. I want that to be constant. Okay. Thank you, Ruben. That's very kind of you. One of my best classes ever. Listen, folks, you've got to make money doing this. I have been telling people this for years. And again, it's out of my bandwidth. I don't have time to get in there, but I'm telling you, it is the way to go. And this is untapped. So Barbara says, can you give us an example of a letter that we send to foreclosures? Send me an email. I'll help you draft something. Again, you want to hand address the return address envelope. You want to hand address the to end part of it. You want to put a regular stamp on it. Don't bulk stamp it. I had an agent when I was management with the rock people who would, at nighttime would fly all the mailings out through the bulk thing. They're all getting thrown away, right? So, because remember, you have a very limited amount of time. Your letter maybe gets their attention for about 6 seconds. And that's why when I'm doing regular mailing pieces, I'm probably going to do a postcard. But when I'm doing something like this, I want to be discreet. I wouldn't want to put on a postcard, hey, I hear you're going to foreclosure. And you never want to use those words anyway. I'm going to create a letter that's going to say something along the line. Again, I'll collaborate with you, send me an email, but something along the line of, a lot of people, don't know that if they're, upside down on payments or whatever, and it could be people in your neighborhood, who knows? But if you ever hear of anybody who's thinking, who may be behind on payments, would you let me know? And again, you're really, it's for their ears, but 2,098 properties. Okay, so from 7/1, Jody, from 7/1 of 2016, again, all of San Diego County. I'm going to have it's going to be a significant number. Look at it. By doing from 2016, I dropped it down almost 400. So now I'm down to 1,700 properties. Again, they're all over the place, right? Here's Encinitas, here's El Cajon, here's Avocado Villas, so they're at La Mesa, so they're all over the place. So, if I want to keep narrowing this down, and maybe I narrow it down by just the zip codes that I'm willing to service, right? But I can do, Del Mar, Solana Beach, Carmel Valley, I probably wouldn't focus on La Jolla, but okay. You can do Encinitas, Cardiff has a separate zip code, right? Cardiff is 92007, right? So if I do that, I mean, I just out of curiosity, I wonder how many properties in Cardiff are in trouble. And again, it doesn't mean they've done anything wrong. It just means they haven't been, the bank has realized that they're not getting their check. And so here we go. We got 6 properties, and there's a map of where they all are. And so look at this, number 5. It's right down there, probably in Orinda. Oh, there you go, San Elijo Avenue. Wow. Okay, so that's going to be a good property. That's going to be a good listing to have. They bought it for $1 million. I assure you, it's well above $1 million today. So McKinnon, right on the freeway. A couple of those, San Elijo Avenue, that's going to be a big ticket item. A couple of them on San Elijo Avenue. So Summit, nice part of Cardiff. And again, the blue indicates to me that it is pre-foreclosure. So all of these should have a blue next to it. The red one means it's expired. So this one on McKinnon expired at 2,950,000, and that was a year ago. So don't, or actually in here it says 12/28. So don't give up on it. Just make sure that if you do reach out to them, remember that all the rules still apply. So if they are, if just because you don't see it in the MLS, make sure all of your letters say, if you are currently listed with another broker, this is not intended as a solicitation of that listing. We cooperate fully with all brokers, because just because you don't see it in the MLS doesn't mean it's not listed. So, so again, pay attention to the rules, all right, and be nice, all right. But that's 6 properties in Cardiff. What happens if I go back to my search here again, pre-foreclosure? Let's change my zip code. Let's make it, boy, you want to do Encinitas, Jode, right? Encinitas. Maybe I shouldn't do Encinitas. I know you won't be on this, right, Jode? Anyway, so submit. And so 30 properties in Encinitas. Here they are all over the place. So I'm going to let you, I'm not going to go down through the list, because some of us have properties in Encinitas. So, but you can see them. So, you click on that, and that's Knightbridge Country Estates Owners Association. So again, you've got all these available to you, and they are all pre-foreclosure properties. So if your target market is Encinitas, go crazy. You've got 30 properties. Okay. All right. So that's good. Any other questions on any of that? Jody, did I answer your question okay? I'm hoping I did, man. And thank you. That's very kind of you. Great class. Barbara, if you want to hook up with me, send me an email, and I will, I guess I'm not supposed to stay hook up, but send me an email. I'll help you with that letter. Send me an idea of what you're going to send. I'll help you edit it. And again, Ruben, thank you. That's so kind of you. Okay, so whoops, there's another one in there. Just snuck in there. Good. Thank you, Jody. Thank you. I just want to make sure I answered your question. So hopefully that's helpful. Again, it's always important to me that I provide value. And so if you found that it was valuable, thank you very much. And I appreciate you. And again, you stayed on it for 2 hours, and it was a lot of material, but again, as all of you, hopefully all of you know, I will help you, off camera if you need it, help you to do these things. But again, the YouTube website, you can type in @Burke Real Estate Consultants Inc. And I always put uppercase B, uppercase R, uppercase E. And you should do that with your email address. You should do that with your website so that people can read it. Okay. As I taught ePro for many years, it's interesting, some of the things that I see on the internet that, I can read that a couple of different ways, right? And then my short link. And again, the reason I do this is because the DRE wants me to create a place on the website for the application to take the class when I'm doing my RPA class. And so this is what this link will lead you to. Okay. So actually this one might take you to the YouTube website, but on my company website will be the form for you to fill out if you want to take the class. So please remember, by the way, when you go to the YouTube thing, like and subscribe. Again, I don't get paid anything about it. Wouldn't it be funny if I started getting checks? But I don't get paid anything for it. There's no firewall on it just now, although I got chastised last night from one of those people down in the beach colony who said, you need to be charging for this. And I'm like, okay. But, like he says, $5 a month. Who wouldn't pay $5 a month to have access to all your stuff? And I'm like, okay, well, I get it. All right. So thank you, Murr. Thank you. Thank you. That's very kind. They're right. Yeah, $5, right? And part of the reason is it's not the $5. Okay, part of the reason is that it's got value, but also I assure you of this, and I love the Department of Real Estate, and I know they're looking at my website, right? So I just have a great relationship with them. I've just been fortunate over all these many years. And so, you need to be compliant, right? And so I do a lot of stuff, and unfortunately, it may hinder me because plaintiffs counsel may go, looking for stuff on me and because, they want to defeat me as an expert defending the brokerage firm. And so obviously if I charge $5, it's harder for them to get it. And they may not know what they're looking at. So subscribe. What that says is that when I upload my videos, which I'm going to do later on today, I'm going to upload my videos. And when I upload those videos, you'll get a notice that says there's a new video. That's all that does. There's no emails that go out. I don't send anything out to anybody. In fact, I thank all of you who have subscribed. I did not sit down and figure out who y'all are and send you a separate thank you email. I would love to do that, but I don't know how. So anyway, but I do thank you for when you subscribe. Thank you for doing that. I do get an email notice that says so-and-so subscribed. And if I have your email address, I guess I could send you a thing saying thank you. But anyway, thank you. And then like it just, I don't know, makes me feel good. Okay, so that's about it. But education at SDAR, I had an attorney send me an email the other day and he said, can you please do a class on agency? And I thought, wow, that's a very high level kind of thing. And I'm going to do trial work on it. So you'd be surprised. Anyway, so can I do that in an hour? Oh boy. Anyway, so I forwarded that on to SDAR. I haven't heard back from anybody yet. So we'll see. I am going to reach out to them because I want to do the class on the RPA and the buyer representation agreement and the listing agreement. I mean, I obviously did that listing agreement today, but I want to start doing those on a regular basis because they change. And there's changes in the purchase agreement that happened in June that nobody knows about. And obviously I know about it, but I want to make sure you have those changes and you know what those are. So anyway, education SDR, wonderful people, great department. Newsletter, hopefully it includes that link. You just click on the link and it takes you straight to signing up for next week's classes, for example. And you bypass the message that says that it's sold out and all that kind of stuff. So I want you to get in. I don't, listen, you all are special to me. I want you there. And so I want you to get in. I don't want there to be any obstacles to that. So the newsletter has all that. Please don't unsubscribe from the newsletter because that it's real difficult to get you back in there again. But if you send me an email, I will send you a response that will include the link for you to sign yourself up. Okay. So that being said, anybody else have anything for the good of the order? It's Thursday afternoon, and I know you got other things to do. I'm not going to keep you until the exactly 4 o'clock. But again, please, I'm available for you anytime. Send me an email. That's always the best way. I'll take the phone call, but my phone's been ringing off the hook here. So I got to return a bunch of calls. But thank you all for being here today. And again, as we say from my hometown of Del Mar, I look forward to seeing you around the track. Take care, everybody. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye for now.